Thank you for joining us today. My name is Carlos Vasquez, doctoral candidate in psychology and the host of Circle of Insight, where we discuss the topics that you have chosen with leading experts. The motto of Circle of Insight is, wherever there's psychology involved, we will be there. Today's topic is an exciting topic. It's the psychology of intimacy. And we are joined by Dr. Shelly Varod, who's coming from Israel to talk with us today about this. Good morning,
Hi.
Dr. Varod.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I'm here in Tel Aviv. It's night here.
Actually, good evening, yes.
But I'm ready.
All right. So the first question, we know Dr. Varod is what they call a sexologist. She has a master's in marriage and family therapy and a doctorate in human sexuality. As she has mentioned several times, people always wonder, what is a sexologist? So let's ask her. Dr. Varod?
I think every person I meet and I tell them what I do, they ask me, first when I say sexology, they like, you mean sociology or psychology? And I'm like, no, I mean sexology, which is pretty much the study of sex. And then they're like, what do you do? What sexologists do? So it's quite simple, like any other field where in the world, pretty much when we have issues or concern about relationship, intimacy, sexual behavior, when we have issues with our partner in bed or personal issues, then that relates to sex, of course, then they come to me. This is where I can be very helpful.
Excellent. It's definitely a topic everybody wants to know about, but it seems it's really hard for everybody to talk about. And you don't normally get it in the media every day. Can you maybe touch a little bit about what intimacy is?
For me, and this is how I tell people, that intimacy, it's more about the little thing that relates to touch. What I mean by saying that is holding hands, hugging, kissing, French kiss as well, passionate, good kiss, little kiss on the cheek, do little romantic things like walking together at the park or at the beach, holding hands, talking to each other, small talks, like real small talks, not like, how are you, how are you doing, like, how was your day, are you upset, was it good, how do you feel, watching each other face and expressions. This is intimacy. It's those little things that, first of all, physically make us feel very connected, and then mentally we want to know that we see each other, that I can tell that you're upset right now if you're upset, or that you're sad, even if you don't really show it.
Interesting.
So that's how I see intimacy.
So it sounds like there's a clear distinction between intimacy and sex.
Yes, but sex, what is sex and sexuality? Sex is also, it's very broad term. Sex used to refer only to intercourse, but we know today that sex is so much more. Sex can be the foreplay, the afterplay, the intercourse, and everything that relates to sexual touch. So that is sex. And I do separate them completely, but I will tell you this. I don't think that you can have passionate, real good sex life without intimacy. That's my personal belief. I think, or it will be much, much better when you develop intimacy with your partner.
Interesting. That's Bobby, actually very accurate, very true. I want to take it back, and we're going to take a walk through history for a little bit, if you can. Can you tell us a little bit about intimacy and sex, maybe in the days of the Romans, going far back, and how did they look at it? And because I know every century seems to change a little bit on how they viewed sex and intimacy, and some got a little bit more liberal, and some got really conservative, or at least on the facade was really conservative, like the Victorian period.
Yes.
Go ahead.
During this time, it was a bit more, I guess, let's put it in that way. In the 1900s, the concept of children started to develop. Before that, during Roman time, there was not really a concept of a child as it is today. Children and teenagers were considered more as an assistant or young adults that can assist the adults and the wealthy people also sexually. So it's something that is far, far from everything we know today. At the time, they wanted to be accepted into those families, and they wanted some adults to adopt them because it means they're going to have food and good life, and they don't have to work or live on the street. So they were much more open-minded in that sense. Whether it's right or wrong, I cannot tell.
That's interesting. So they had a really different view than we have now.
More as we mentioned before, we talked about Pompeii. Everybody talks
Nice.
about Pompeii because it froze. It seems like over there it was much more sexual society and culture, as you can tell from the painting who froze and everything that they found there.
Yeah, they seem to have a
So,
lot of escorts of some sort, or prostitutes in a sense, in their version of it, I guess.
and they are acceptable. They accept them, and they're part of in a good part of society. I don't think they view them as a bad thing. I also think in the Roman time they were kind of escort, but I don't think they defined it as
An escort.
yes, more of a, I would
Interesting.
say adults playmate.
Now, what do you think happened to society during the Victorian period? Where, if you remember, I'm sure you do, you got really conservative. You wouldn't talk about anything.
It's hard to tell what happened. I can't really figure this one out. I don't know why. And sometimes it seems like one big party and sexually open, and you're allowed to do everything. And then comes Victorian time where everything is
Yeah.
so closed and you don't talk about it, and we don't know who does what. And even if I go to the States in the 50s when Kinsey came, it was a time where it seems like everybody was doing it, everybody was having intercourse and sex, but no one was talking about it. And people
Interesting.
were thirsty for information. You wanted to know if what you do is right, because it always feels wrong when you don't know what the other people do. You always think maybe something is wrong with me. It was a time where our parents did not talk to us about sex or tell us, this is how you do it, this is this position, this is that position. Nobody tells you anything about it. But you feel very sexual in your body and you want to explore, and then everybody becomes active. Maybe, I don't know if before the wedding or after, but no one knows if what they do is right. And then Kinsey come in and he started researching the subject, and everybody was like fascinated about his research, at least for the male one, because the women one was not accepted. It was hard to think of a woman as a sexual human being at the time.
That's interesting. Well, let's go ahead. That actually leads me to a lot of questions now in present time. In your practice, 'cause I know you have a practice out in Israel, do you
Yes.
see, is that a major impediment to some of the people now, the younger people, that they can't discuss these things with their parents? Is that something, do you think it's something inherent in us, or is it just a culture?
I think it's a culture thing. There is two problems here. One, the schools, they don't prepare kids for there's human sexuality. If they have the class of human sexuality, they mainly talk about development and menstruation and your breast and and hair, and it's just
Very medical, clinical?
physical acts that relate to your physical development when you're teenage, but it's not related to sex. When I trained in LA and I worked with teenagers, I realized they were late teens, so I would say 18 to 21. But I realized that teens, they do everything, at least the group I worked with, were very experienced. They knew more stuff than I did.
Oh, wow.
And I decided that I'm going to teach them in a way, not assuming they have never done anything or kissed or touched each other, but assume they have, and then help them to become, develop healthy relationship, healthy sexuality, protect themselves, not to get pregnant, not to get an STI, sexual transmitted infection. So I feel like here they start, I would say practice, but they start having sexual contact at an early age, but they don't know much about it. They don't use birth controls or condoms. They don't do a lot of stuff that are very important, but the parents don't talk to them about it either. They're kind of like going around, so it doesn't really help them learn anything either.
That's a tough challenge I think we have over here as well in America. The
I
parents
think
don't
so
want to
too.
talk to them either.
We are a very conservative society, but we have to start realize that some people become active at a young age. So whether we choose to be still conservative, it's okay. But if your teen become active it's better to prepare him before he decided to engage in sexual activity, rather than having, all the major risk and that involved with it that we don't want. We don't want a pregnant. Your MTV show was like the pregnant teens brought the whole topic up, which is very good. I forgot how you call it.
That actually, that actually brings me to another question. I'm sure as we keep talking, it'll keep bringing me to questions. How does the pornography industry affect intimacy? Do you see that affecting it?
I see it. Very good question, especially after we talked about teens, because if you want to know where people learn how to have sex and what to do, it's from porn, including teenagers, young adults. This is our model. We don't have a sexual education movies. I mean, they exist in my school, but they don't exist out there. So when you search for a missionary position or how to, put a condom, or I'm not going to go into.
Sure.
I'm not sure what I can say here, but any type of sexual engagement or foreplay, they get porn because porn is everywhere. And even if the parents control their computer and they put, all the adults, I forgot how you call that. Also,
blocks?
Yes, when you block adult side for the children, they will go to their friend, and they will find some porn for them. And the porn has huge amount of effect on everybody, from styling and fashion of women, hair, how they fix it and arrange it down there, to sex toys and lingerie and positions. And the problem is that it's cut and edit and they put sound effects, and people think that they can go for 2 hours straight, and women needs to shout really, really loud so the neighbors will hear them. And the guys talk to them very dirty, and they think this is reality. And I don't mind recommending people watching porn as long as they know that it's not reality and it's far from reality.
Hi, welcome to Adelante. This is Adelante Recovery, and my name is Yvette Kuglin, and I'm part of the staff.
Adelante Recovery Center has helped people in dual diagnosis for 5 years. We accept most PPO insurances and provide luxury accommodations and 24-hour support. To speak with an admissions counselor, call 1-888-242-4450.
A lot of time we don't even know what's wrong with us, and sometimes we need to get away to figure that out. So if you want to go for a little retreat out in Corona Del Mar, which is a confidential location, we're here to help. So we're only a phone call away. Thank you.
And when I was thinking about the porn industry, I could see that this seems to be objectifying women, maybe dehumanizing them depending on what you watch, maybe even desensitizing people.
Yes, it used to be, but a new movement of female directors and script writers rose, and because of what you're saying, and they decided to create pornography that is more female-friendly, realistic, so they will not think that each one of us is a porn star or we can perform like them, because we can't. The truth is, these women are trained. They are good at what they do. That's why they are in the films and they have talent. But we did not practice like them, and we cannot do the same. I can't act or performance. You can't perform like them. So this new movement made women-friendly pornography, which is very good. But not a lot of men are attracted to that. Yes, still women will find it more attractive, but men still wants to see the woman do everything they want her to do in their fantasy. That's the pornography goal.
Interesting. We'll have to start approaching that as well in a little bit. We'll look at the gender differences of what intimacy means to each gender. Well, let's go ahead and start that. What is there a distinction between intimacy, between what a male views it as and what a female views it as?
Well, the main difference that I see, I will connect about intimacy and sexuality, is men are visual. just as we said, they see porn, they get turned on within 2 seconds. Females, they need a lot of touch to come to the point where male get turned on like this. We get turned on much slower, and after a lot of affection, not always, yes, it's not like every time you see me or you see a woman you have to give her a lot of affection and touch, but we are based on touch and not visual. So it's very important for us physically that the men will kiss us and hug and touch us, and the whole foreplay, as we say, because our physiology and our body prepare itself for sexual activity, and it takes time to reach this point. In order for us to get lubricated and have non-painful sex, we need this sort of touch and play before we're having an intercourse.
Okay, interesting.
So, for men, it's so easy. Sometimes I'm like, why were we so complicated? I wish we were like just like that already. But unfortunately, it's not.
Now, I'm going to move away a little bit from the sex. And, well, I want to look at intimacy. Like you were saying, women like the touch, like the affection, the hugging. I've heard in the past, women, sometimes when they see the man doing something that takes care of the home, whether it's providing, maybe acquiring a job, taking care of the children, anything like that, does that sometimes also enhance the intimacy for the woman?
And the relationship with a woman. When a man is a man, when he provides, when he cares, when he shows love and affection towards the woman or wife and the children, it does, we feel like, oh my gosh, this is our man, and he's such a man and a good man. So it definitely increased the intimacy and the affection, and that helps also for later on for all the long-term relationship and raising the children together and having a better sex life. It really, really is important that, but also for the woman. You want the woman to care too and show that she cares and that she loves and she does things for the house. It depends what type of man you are. Most men likes old-fashioned, old school women. The one that kind of also cooks and cleans, not just career-driven.
Have you found that to be true in America as well as Israel?
Yes, and I found that a lot of men finding career women intimidating. And also
really?
Education. Women that has a lot of higher education that they studied, I find, sometimes I see how men find it a little bit intimidating. Not always. It depends how secure they are.
I've spoken with, I mean, it's a very small sample size. It's not good for a real study, but I have spoken with a few women that have their PhDs, and they have encountered difficulties finding men that were comfortable with them being a doctor in any field, really.
It was hard for me too.
Was it?
Yeah, personally, I found it difficult too. Many people were like, well, A, they thought I studied too much, so they felt intimidating, and B, they thought that if I'm a sexologist, it means that I not just know everything, but I do everything, which is wrong. We know everything, but we don't do everything. We are like any other human being. We have our preferences. So many men told me, oh, I would never date you because you're a sexologist or because you have your PhD or reasons like that. They said it's straightforward. I appreciate that. But I was like, really? I thought it should give me some points, but...
So they actually told you they wouldn't date you because of your PhD?
Yes, because of that.
Well, that leads me to, what are some of the areas or challenges for intimacy that you've seen in your practice or in your studies? Maybe pick some of the main themes that you see over and over again repeating itself.
Over and over again is, if we talk about couples, then
Sure.
A lot of couples claim that after a year, they don't understand what happened to their sex life, or that it's really boring, or that they don't feel the same passion they had when they started to date. And it's interesting how many times I've heard that, because I always repeat the same information. I always tell them that when you meet and you're in love, your hormones are going crazy and your sex life are crazy and everything is crazy and we can't see the flaws in each other and we're so in love and we're so high. But with the time, they don't understand what happened. And when it moves from the in love to the love phase, it's not as passionate, but it can be as passionate if they work on it. But people think, no, 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 no. This should be natural, and I don't need to work on it. If I need to work on it on our sexual relationship, then something is wrong. But the truth is, we all have to work on it. We all have to maintain it. It's like a flower that you don't give it water, it's going to die. This is the basic notion of having a good sex life for over, when you date someone more than a year, for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
And that's
And
dating.
people don't,
Is that the same thing in marriage?
yes, for marriage as well. Most married couples, they don't understand that they have to work on it. They think if it doesn't come naturally, then there is something wrong with us. Maybe I don't find him attractive. In any case, scholar says that after 4 years, average, research, a lot of research was done about this subject. They said you will not find your partner sexually attractive anymore. But if you have
Really?
kids, marriage is going to continue. That's what's going to keep you together. But I think they forgot to add that if you work on it, and if you, add new stuff and become creative and move away from routine, we have tendency to have the same routine in our sex life as well.
That's a good
Same
point.
3 positions, same time, same week, same day of the week, same thing all over again and again. Of course you get tired of it. Imagine I tell you can eat only these 3 sandwiches during the next month. You're going to get bored of eating that. You're not going to want to eat that anymore. So it's the same with sex. Spice it up. Add some new toys. Add some role play. Change location. Change the day, even the time. Do it in the morning instead of the night. Change any little thing, and it's going to make it more exciting.
Excellent. We'll get back to that too later on the second part of the show. We'll go over some of the things people can do to improve their intimacy levels and sex life.
I have a big list.
Huh?
I have a big list for that.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a lot.
How does children affect the married couples or non-married couples' sex life? I mean, does it improve it? Does it make it harder?
I tell you what, I call children the fruit of love. It's the most beautiful thing a couple can create, really. But the main concern I have with children is that it's something that you are so in love with and you develop such a deep relationship that you forget your partner because they fulfill you. They give you this amazing, pure love. And when you hug them and feel them, it fulfills this need to be touched and warm, not in a sexual way, yes, in a true love way and true connection. And we forget about a partner. That's the main problem with children, that we used to get that kind of warmth and love from our partner, but now we have this cute little creature, a child that is so pure and beautiful and we're so in love with that we don't need anything else. So it's very, very important for fathers and mothers not to forget about each other, to take time off, to take short vacations, to be alone again, work on the intimacy again, and kind of try to bring back what they used to have. That's how I see it.
That's a great point. It happens. I have a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old, and it's a wonderful experience. And you have yourself a 5-month-old?
Yes.
Yes.
And it's a wonderful experience, but I can totally see how we forget our partner when the child comes to the relationship.
Indeed.
We have to pay attention to that.
Let's go ahead now. We're going to switch a little bit and go to cultures. A lot of cultures vary in how they perceive intimacy and sex. We've seen all sorts of things over the last centuries, and some still do the same thing. We've seen arranged marriages. We've seen polygamy. These are some of the issues maybe we can discuss a little bit on the show. We'll start off with culture. I know you work primarily now with the Jewish population in Israel,
Yes.
mainly, I'm assuming. But you were also here in the States for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Cultural differences, what you've seen?
I actually see more similarities between both cultures, and I worked with a very diverse population in LA, like from all sort of cultures, and at least the background. And here I find I kind of see it similar because I see that people are very religious, or even if they're not extreme religious and they just believe in it, and that affect their sex life a lot. I see a struggle. I see a struggle between what they feel in their body and the need to become a sexual being, because it is a natural thing that kind of attack you one day when you're a teenager. You're like, oh, what's those feelings? And it's going crazy. And you're like, but you want to do stuff. But then if you're religious, you cannot do stuff because they forbidden that until you're married, until you get married.
And there's a specific function. I remember we talked about it before. There's a specific function they view sex for. There's a purpose for it, right?
Only for children.
Just for procreation.
Yes, procreation. Exactly. That's the only reason you're allowed to if you are very religious. Because some people are in between, and I find those who in between are struggling. They go here, they go there. They don't know. They feel guilt. If they have premarital sex, they feel a lot of guilt. Or if they self-pleasure themselves, they feel a lot of guilt. Because you're not supposed to self-pleasure yourself. You're supposed to only do it for procreation. And especially for male, it's a big deal. Because when they self-pleasure themselves, they come. And then it's a sperm. And the sperm is just going out there and not for its purpose. So this world is again, but these are more religious people. The non-religious people, I don't see much issue. I see that they do a lot of stuff. They don't talk about everything, but they practice a lot.
So the very religious ones, obviously, as you mentioned earlier, they have feelings of guilt, maybe shame.
If they will do something that is not written in the Bible or is not part of their religious practice, yes.
Sure, and that's got to be a big challenge for them. Does that affect a lot of their relationships?
If you're a very religious person, there's only one way for you. There is no other way. And it means you're holding back all this sexual energy. And you don't let your libido get higher. You need to control it all the time on a daily basis. I don't know if you know, but like Hasidic Jews are not allowed to, the male, shake the hand of a woman or look on a woman. They go with their head down.
Oh, interesting.
This is part of the practice. Yes, and I can understand why. Again, sexual energy is something that is very natural, and if you have to control it, and you cannot date, you actually have to marry the girl you choose.
Oh, you do?
Or the girl parents choose for you. You also have a say. You can say if you want to marry her or not, but then when you marry her, it's the only woman you're going to have. And it's the pretty much first time you are having an intercourse as well, because you cannot try anything before you're getting married.
That changes the game a lot.
Yes, but it also, I heard matchmakers saying that if you take two strangers and you put them together for enough amount of time, they will fall in love with each other. So I start to see how this theory works, especially with the religious people, because they stay together for many, many years and they have a lot of kids. And some of them seem happy.
Wow.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, this was going to conclude part one. Today we discussed a little bit of some of the challenges. We got to learn about the history of intimacy, where it came from, what is intimacy. From our expert, Dr. Shelly Varod from Israel. We're going to come back on part two and discuss a little bit more about some of the challenges that individuals with certain religious beliefs encounter with intimacy. And then we're going to look for solutions and tips on how to make your life a lot better with your intimacy. Once again, thank you, Dr. Shelly Varod, for joining us. We'll see you in part two.